talking a lot of Steve Kerr. Right before the break, brought up Bill Walsh and Steve Kerr and who had the more impressive runs. And look, the popular choice is Bill Walsh. There's no doubt.
For a variety of reasons.
He came in when he got hired with the 49ers. They were an expansion team.
And he gets GM power.
Yeah, GM power, because they got rid of Joe Thomas, who was the GM prior, who was a terrible GM, and traded all those picks for O.J. Simpson. He was just awful. Awful.
He was so bad, they literally destroyed all of the records and the books and the history. They literally burned it all.
Burned it all.
They have nothing from that era.
And Joe Thomas was a guy who had a terrible reputation in the NFL, but Eddie D needed somebody who knew somebody in the NFL.
Yes.
So that's why he hired Joe Thomas. Joe Thomas gets fired. Later on, Bill Walsh you got to get this guy out of here. Anyway, and what's funny is, too, Bill Walsh's first Super Bowl win coming against Cincinnati, where Paul Brown would not hire him. And he's like, dude, I implemented the West Coast offense in Cincinnati. I'm your guy. And Paul Brown's like, yeah, you're not my guy.
Against the quarterback that he elevated and but helped reach the heights.
Kid Anderson.
Kid Anderson, very underrated player.
Very underrated player. Very underrated. So Bill Walsh, that Super Bowl meant a lot to him to beat Paul Brown. He did it not once, but twice. His first Super Bowl and his last Super Bowl.
Makes me feel like the current Niners are the equivalent of the Cincinnati Bengals to the Niner dynasty. That's what the Niners are to the Chiefs dynasty. And that is really hard to swallow.
That is. But
Keep going.
You know what, though? And look, it's easy to take. I get it. Bill Walsh in the league that didn't have a salary cap yet. And Eddie DeBartolo had all the resources in the world to get Bill Walsh anything that he wanted. But Bill Walsh gets credit for drafting, he gets credit for development, and he gets credit for changing the league. The evolution of the NFL doesn't happen without Bill Walsh in the forward pass. Everybody, like when they beat Miami in that Super Bowl at Stafford, everybody's like, we'd never seen anything like this.
Well, I also believe what elevated his status was you knock off Tom Landry, right? So it's the end of the Cowboys run.
Yep.
You went through Bill Parcells.
Yep.
You went through Joe Gibbs. You faced Don Shula. Like, if you look at that era of head coaches, not just in the NFC, but also into the AFC, I mean, it's a hell of a freaking, golden era of head coaches. Like Buddy Ryan's Eagle defenses and what the Bears represented. The win, I think the win in '88 in Soldier Stadium is one of the seminal moments of Bill Walsh's career. It's kind of like the icing on the cake. To win in the dramatic fashion that they won on the one end at the beginning of the dynasty with the catch, which is the famous play, and then obviously at the end with the 2-minute drill in Miami, like. There's so many different layers.
But there's also some monumental losses. 87 against Minnesota. 49-3 against the New York Giants when Joe Montana gets knocked out. 17-3 against the New York Giants. You're down 21-0 against Washington. You lose that NFC Championship game. You get upset to the point where by the time they lost to the Vikings in 87, Bill Walsh got stripped of the GM power. And DeBartolo was hell. He was fired, basically. Carbon policy had to calm him down. Hey, let's keep Bill for a second. But Bill was worn out. Thinking about Steve Kerr, when they're favored, they win for the most part. How many losses can you say, boy, they really should have won that one? There's not many with Steve Kerr and company.
No.
There's not many at all. And you think about the evolution. In a way, I know Bill Walsh and the 49ers. They revolutionized football with the West Coast offense and whatnot. But what about what the Warriors have done? Because I remember when they won 73 games, and I was talking to Zach Randolph after the game.
Yeah.
And I was asking about this team, what about the Warriors? I was doing my duty as a reporter. That's all. I'm not trying to flex, but Zach Randolph was kind enough to spend a few minutes with me, and he goes, little bro? He goes, little bro? I ain't never seen nothing like this. He goes, they broke basketball. I'm like, what does that mean? He goes, I've never seen this style of play with the shot-making ability. And by the way, they're going to the paint and getting layups. We don't know what to do against this team.
I think Steph Curry gets all the headlines as this three-point shooter that everyone wants to shoot threes. But simultaneously, and I think the Miami Heat are also an evolutionary step forward in this progression. Positionless basketball and a point forward in Draymond Green, who's doing what he's doing at his size and to be able to facilitate the offense. It's not just Steph Curry. Like, I throw Iggy in there. I throw Draymond in there. I throw Klay Thompson's ability to guard all of the best perimeter players. Like, it used to be point guard guards point guard. And shooting guard shooting guard. And you just got to kind of swallow it. Now, I know Dumars would do his thing, but like, I think what Klay Thompson, Iguodala, Draymond Green, what they represented in terms of throwing the kitchen sink at a LeBron James in a series, and then a Sean Livingston,
and the ability,
can't be said enough.
No, and switching. Think about how many teams switch. They will fight through screens or double the ball handler in the pick and roll. The Warriors started switching everything, saying we're just going to switch, and we'll play small on you.
Yeah.
We'll still have rim protection. So the evolution of the Golden State Warriors and what they did for the game of basketball, it may not have the same impact as a West Coast offense, but it shouldn't be lost on anybody. A lot of people have duplicated the Warriors' brand of basketball. A lot of people try to play the way the Warriors are by saying, you know what, we need long wing defenders. We don't need necessarily fives, but we need dudes who could shoot.
Well, wouldn't you say that Jokic, in a way, has a lot of skills Bogut had?
Yep.
In terms of passing.
Oh, yeah. Passing ability. Bogut was a very underrated passer.
Jokic is significantly more accomplished and has way more of a repertoire offensively, but just the IQ of being able to set up the offense, Bogut was so good at that.
Right. No, he was so good
at the top of the key.
888-957-9570.
Can I also add one more?
Go ahead.
I think we're sleeping on Bruce Bochy. I think we're sleeping on Bruce Bochy in this conversation. And the reason why I think we're sleeping on Bruce Bochy is Bruce Bochy took over a team, the San Francisco Giants, at a time where it was literally like, hey, it's the last year of Bonds. And, we're just trying to get this record and whatever. And he's a placeholder. Nothing could be farther from the truth. Bochy's one of the greatest winners of all time. What he did with the 2010 team, what he did the following year, even though they lost Buster Posey for the year, they were fighting until the very end. 2012, I think, is their best year, hands down. And to go down the way that they did, Cincinnati, I mean, that series is an all-time series.
All-time series, no doubt.
You knocked off the Phillies in 2010. I don't think we could talk enough about that. But then in 2012, Detroit was an unbeatable team. Go back and look at that roster.
I remember I got a World Series hat from Mark Spears. Young Bonte Hill. We had a bet. He goes, oh, Tigers, they got all the momentum. I was like, you want to bet that?
Cabrera
bet that.
And Prince. And then Ian Kinsler. And then you also had one of the great pitching staffs of our life. We talk about Nathan Eovaldi. I mean, they had Verlander and Scherzer. They were unbelievable, that team. And they swept them. Then what he did in 2014, I
don't think anybody's sleeping on Bochy. Nobody's sleeping on Bochy because he goes to Texas and wins the championship his first year. But right here in the Bay Area, in our YouTube poll right now is up. YouTube poll's up right now.
He didn't lose a playoff series until 2016, and they should have won that one.
Steve Kerr didn't lose a Western Conference series until last season.
But I don't think that the Giants were ever, outside of maybe 3 months of 2012, ever as comprehensively great as what the Warriors were. Like, Bill Walsh created the Niners into a juggernaut.
No doubt.
The Warriors were a juggernaut, and Kerr deserves a ton of credit.
No, they weren't a juggernaut before Kerr.
No, I said
he helped create that juggernaut.
That's what I'm saying. It was
he took it to another level.
Exactly.
He took it to another stratosphere.
Bochy inherited a team where, I mean, Edgardo Alonso was your third baseman for crying out loud.
And Sabian and company had to go to work, and they had to draft, and they had to make magic happen. There's no doubt.
I just think we got to give some love to Bochy.
We have given Bochy. Okay. We've given Bochy a lot of love. We're not saying we're giving Bochy a lot of love.
And LaRussa as well. I want to give LaRussa credit.
But think about the Rockets years and the Blazers and OKC and LeBron. Steve Kerr and the Warriors broke LeBron.
No doubt.
They broke him. They broke him in half.
He thought he was going to go with Kevin Love and Kyrie and win 4.
I mean, they had him walking to the podiums with casts on his wrist. Talking about my wrist is hurt. I heard it in game 1. What? Wait, huh? Wait, what? I mean, the Warriors broke basketball. They literally broke basketball. And then, as you mentioned, reinvented themselves. He gets a young Jordan Poole, who I didn't even think was an NBA player his rookie year.
Clay comes back. He wasn't. He was a G Leaguer.
Clay comes back off 2 devastating injuries. Draymond is barking left and right. Iguodala's at the end of the road. Kevon Looney, they stuck with Kevon Looney, a trusted agent.
Yeah.
Andrew Wiggins, he gets the best out of Andrew Wiggins.
Otto Porter Jr. I mean, the list goes on. They lost Gary Payton that year.
It may be one of the more improbable championships in Bay Area sports history.
It's certainly up there.
2022 is up there, so our YouTube poll